Today we are going to discuss on the topic propagation and dissemination of weeds. Propagation and dissemination is the process of multiplying or increasing the number of plants and expanding its own area of the same species and at the same time perpetuating their desirable characteristics. Plants may be propagated under two general categories, sexual and asexual propagation. So a sound knowledge of the mode of propagation and dispersal of weeds is essential to planning their effective prevention and control measures. The chance of a seed developing are generally enhanced if there is a mechanism for dispersing to an appropriate habitat some distance from the parent plant. Seeds have no way to move on their own, but they are excellent travelers. Plants have evolved various mechanisms that disperse their seeds effectively. Many species of plants have seeds with anatomical structure that make them very buoyant, so they can be dispersed over great distance by the winds. Broadly speaking, there are three modes of propagation in weeds. They are sexual, asexual, and vegetative type of propagation, which give rise to different types of propagules in different weed species. The weed propagules disseminate in nature in varied ways with dispersing agents like wind, waters, crops, animals, and man's unthoughtful activities, leading to wide distribution and persistence of weeds. This refers to fusions of two reproductive units or the gametes by a conjugation, fertilization. So majority of our weeds reproduce by distinct seed formation through fertilization, and they are largely monoecious. A few like Canada thistle and eelgrass are dioecious, which bear male and female flowers on different individuals. Obviously, only the female plants of such weeds had seeds. Seed production in weeds is prolific, particularly in annual and biennial. But in perennial weeds, seed production facility is limited. Example like cyperus and cynodon species, which produce only 40 to 170 seeds per plant, but with exception which produce thousands of seeds per year per plant by Johnson grass and tiger grasses as annual weeds. In an undisturbed field like no-tillage farming system, weed seeds fall on the ground tends to remain on top 1 cm soil layer. But in conventional farming system, tillage tend to disturb their distribution and weeds present in plowed layer of soil. Some weeds go up to 30 cm or more through cracks and crevices. Comolina bengalensis places its seeds directly inside soil since it produces aerial and underground flowers and seeds. In addition to prolific seed production, weed seeds are capable in retaining their viability for 2 to 25 years, depending on which species within the soil. Remixed species show 63 to 90% germination up to 2 to 7 years. After these were buried up to 30 cm deep. While Echinoclea, Poa, and Cenobodum species germinated even after 25 years. Weed seeds differ widely in their shape and size as well as their viability. Many of these germinate immediately after harvest, but Datura, Physalis, and Citare species which remain dormant for short or long period before revival their viability. In case of non-dominant weed, seeds like Illucine indica and Biden species exhibited over 60% germination against Cynodon dactylon and Cyperus rotundus, which show only 0 and 6% germination respectively. Asexual reproduction. Asexual reproduction occurs without unions of reproductive cells. Here, each reproductive cell is simply cut off from the parent's plant and it grows into a new individual by fusion or spore formation. The sexual conjugation and asexual reproduction is limited to weedy algae, horsetails and ferns. Vegetative reproduction. Vegetative reproduction is a reproduction system in which a portion of mother plants, either stem or roots, gets detached and grow into a separate individual capable of colonizing new areas of land, or the which may produce some specific modified vegetative organs for this purpose both above and underground. The vegetative reproduction in which may be as simple as budding, like in water blooms, or it may involve highly developed adventitious organs such as found in perennial vascular weeds. Vegetative propagation is primarily a feature of perennial weeds, and this has two advantages like purity of parental stocks is maintained and quick multiplication. This modification in the forms of rhizomes, rootstock, runners, tubers, bulb, bulbils and bulblets, stems and roots. Rhizomes and rootstock. It is a horizontally growing underground modified shoot-bearing nodes, internodes, buds and scaly leaves. Cynodon dactylon uses rhizomes under the ground, runners and stolon over the ground. When rhizome tends to grow vertically downward, it is called a rootstock, such as seen in Johnson grass. Runners. Aerial shoots coming from axials of lower leaves are called runners. Creeping types of weeds such as Bermuda grass, wood sorrel and pennyworts produce special aerial shoots called runners from the axial of their lower leaves. The runners travel on soil surface in different directions and strike roots from their terminal buds at short distances. This is followed by appearance of new shoots from their crown regions. The outer plants of such weeds repeat the process and form big patches. Stolons, suckers, offset are different forms of runners. Stolon, suckers and offsets. These are different forms of runners. When a runner, instead of trailing on the soil surface, rises in the form of an arc before hitting the soil, it is called a stolon. Weeds belonging to the family Rosaceae propagate by stolon. Suckers, in variance with runners, trail little below the soil surface as in hogweeds. Runners of floating weeds like water hyacinth and water lettuce are called offset. Swollen ends of its vary rhizomes and suckers are called tubers. Example like nutshade. A tuber possesses scaly leaves, inconspicuous nodes and internodes, and minute buds, which give rise to a new aerial shoots, rhizomes and roots. Bulb. When crown region of a plant is compressed in the shape of discs, it is called a bulb. Each bulb contains many fleshy leaves, axillary buds, and flowering buds at its apex. Wild onion and wild garlic, which is propagated by bulb, bulbils and bulblets. Bulbils, also called aerial bulblets, which are modified of vegetative or flower buds. They are commonly found in woody sorrels, wild onions and wild garlic. Sprout leaves and working fern hydrilla produce aerial buds called turos as additional means of vegetative propagation. Stems and roots. Fragments of stems and roots of many weeds can grow into full plants. Detached stem pieces of dodder and prickly pears and the creeping horizontal roots of Canada thistle, perennial saw thistle and filbine weeds, for instance, are common means of propagation of these weeds. All submerged aquatic weeds are capable of propagating in water bodies through plant fragments and sticky glands. Some annual weeds can also adopt specific vegetative propagation mechanism, such which vigorate their crown buds to produce new plants. Weeds propagate through vegetative propagation mechanisms are difficult to manage since they propagate are located up to 100 cm depth. Plantia lanceolate may hit several meters deep. Weed seeds or fruits produced by mother plants are dispersed of in three ways. Number one, a part of it may fall near mother plants. Secondly, a part of it may move out of the field as contaminated with crop harvest. Or the remaining portion dispersed with agents like wind, water, transport system, animal, man, and manure to short or long distance. An effective dispersal of wheat seeds require two essentials, that is, a successful agents and effective adaptation. Common agents of wheat dispersal are wind, water, animal, birds, organic manure, agriculture implements, and human beings. The following are some of the dissemination agents, that is, number one, wind. Usually the wheat seeds that disseminate through winds possess special organs that keep them afloat. Some such organs are papas. It is a modification of persistent calyx into hairs. This is a parachute-like structure. Dandelion, several Asteraceae and Typhaceae weeds are dispersed through this agent. Comos. Wheat seeds are covered with special hair partially or fully, for example blood flower, Calotropis species, and Saccharum species. Feathery persistent style. In some fruits, the style are persistent and feathery, such as found in certain species of anemone. In some of the anemone species, however, the fruits are hairy. Balloon. It is a modified papary calyx that encloses the fruit loosely with entrapped air as seen in ground cherry. Wings. Some wheat seeds and fruits develop one or more appendages that act as a wing and help them to float in air as in big leaf maple. Besides the above adoption, some wheat seeds and fruits are so light, as in Johnson grass. As a result, they become airborne with a storm without any special floating arrangement. Water. Aquatic weeds disperse primarily through water. Whole plants, plant fragments, or as seed disperse with the water currents. They possess a lot of spongy, parenchymatous tissue that keep them afloat. Besides this, terrestrial form with seeds also disperse with irrigation water or drainage channel down the stream to the new field. Animals. Many weeds, fruits and seeds are eaten by birds and animals. Depending upon the digestion mechanism of animal and weed species, 0.2 to 9.6% of the ingested weed seeds are passed in viable form with animal excreta, which is dropped wherever they move. This mechanism of weed dispersal is called endozoochory. Several birds pick up weed fruits and seeds on their wings, feet, and beak and drop them while they are flying. Examples like lantana seeds were disseminated by Indian myna and Chinese turtle dove. Loranthus also carried by beaks of birds, which are transferred to new branches of the trees when they rub their beaks against them. Men. Men are also some of the agents which disseminate the seed. Careless activity of man is greatly responsible for the dispersal of weeds, movement of farm implements, automobiles, and aeroplanes. For example, like punctured wine was brought to India by aircraft tires. Farm produce. Numerous wheat seeds and fruits are dispersed by man with raw agricultural produce, which mature at same time and height as that of crop, have similar size and shape of their seeds. as that of crop seeds and are easily mixed with crop seeds. They are called satellite weeds. Example like Avena fatua and Phalaris minor are such weeds in winter grain. Example Oraya species in rice, Psychrom intubus and Cascata species in lucerne. They form as seed contaminants in respective host crop seeds as the integral part of specific crops. A plant seed is a unique genetic entity, a biological individual. The chances of a seed developing are generally enhanced if there is a mechanism for dispersing to an appropriate habitat to some distance from the parent plants. The reason for dispersal is that closely related organisms having similar ecological requirements. Obviously, competition with the parent plant will greatly reduce if its seeds have a mechanism to disperse some distance away. Their ability to spread and remain viable in the soil for years make eradication nearly impossible. So seeds have no way to move on their own, but they are excellent travelers. Plants have evolved various mechanisms that disperse their seeds effectively. Many species of plants have seeds with anatomical structure that make them very buoyant, so they can be dispersed over great distance by the winds. In the absence of proper means of their dispersal, weeds could not have moved from one country to another. An effective dispersal of weed seeds and fruits require two essential successful dispersing agents and effective adaptation to the new environment.